Some endings don't make sense. Not at first. Not when the person was good. Not when the love was real. Not when you had already built a life in your mind around their presence and woven them into every future you could imagine. Not when you did everything right and it still fell apart anyway. There are breakups that feel like punishment. Like something was taken from you that you deserve to keep. But what if the ending was not punishment? What if it was protection? There was a woman named Serena. 29 years old. Warm. Thoughtful. The kind of woman who loved deeply and completely and held nothing back when she decided someone was worth holding on to. She had been with a man named Daniel for 3 years. Daniel was not a bad man. That is the part that made it harder. He was kind in the ways that mattered on the surface. Attentive when he was present. Charming in the ways that made Serena's friends say, "He seems so good for you." But something underneath was always slightly misaligned. Serena felt it. She had felt it from the end of the first year, a quiet unease she could never fully name. A sense that she was always slightly adjusting herself to fit the shape of what Daniel needed. Always giving a little more than she received. Always being the one who reached first after every silence. She told herself it was normal. That love required adjustment. That she was being too sensitive. And so she stayed. And loved harder. And adjusted more. Until Daniel ended it. Not with cruelty. Just with honesty. He said he wasn't sure she was the one. That he cared for her but couldn't see the future she had already built so clearly in her mind. Serena sat alone in her apartment that night and cried in a way she hadn't cried since she was a child. And she asked God a question that millions of people have asked in that same darkness. Why? Why let me love someone this much just to take them away? Here is the question Serena was too heartbroken to ask in that first season of grief. Not just, why did it end? But, what was it doing to me while it lasted? Because relationships do something to us whether we examine it or not. They shape us. They teach us. They either call us higher or quietly pull us lower. And the honest answer, the one Serena could only see from a distance, was that the relationship with Daniel had been slowly and quietly asking her to be less expressive. Because Daniel was reserved and her expressiveness made him uncomfortable. Less ambitious. Because her drive quietly threatened a dynamic he preferred. Less herself. Because the version of herself that fit comfortably beside Daniel was a smaller version than the one that existed when she was alone. She hadn't noticed because the adjustments were small. Each one reasonable in isolation. But together, over 3 years, they had moved her significantly from the center of who she actually was. God did not end that relationship to hurt Serena. God ended it to return her to herself. This is the part that makes endings like Serena's so confusing and so painful. Daniel was not wrong. He was not a villain. He was not someone she needed to be rescued from in any obvious way. He was simply, not hers. And that distinction matters more than most people understand. There are people who are genuinely good who are not genuinely right for you. People whose goodness is real but whose direction is different. Whose values on the surface align but whose depths point somewhere else entirely. Staying with the wrong person, even a good wrong person, is not just a romantic mistake. It is a spiritual one. Because when you are bound to someone who is not your assignment, you are unavailable for the one who is. Your energy is occupied. Your heart is committed. Your future is being shaped by a connection that was never meant to be permanent. And every day it continues is a day the right thing cannot find you. Serena had a friend named Grace, a woman 10 years older who had walked a similar road. And Grace said something to her 3 months after the breakup that changed how Serena saw everything. She said, "Serena, God didn't take Daniel from you. He cleared the space so the right person could find you. And more importantly, so you could find yourself again first." The season after a relationship ends is one of the most important seasons of a person's life. Not because of what is lost. Because of what becomes possible. In the months after Daniel left, Serena discovered things about herself that 3 years of quiet adjustment had buried. She remembered that she loved writing. She had stopped because Daniel found it indulgent. She remembered that she had a dream of starting something of her own. She had put it aside because the relationship had always felt more urgent than the vision. She remembered what it felt like to have an opinion and express it without measuring how it would land. To fill a room with her full presence rather than the edited version. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, In the way that things only grow when they finally have enough light, Serena came back to herself. Not the version that fit beside Daniel. The original one. The one God had been trying to protect all along. I want to speak directly to you today. If you are sitting with an ending that makes no sense, if you are grieving someone who is good but is gone, I am not going to tell you the pain is not real. It is real. Grieve it fully. Honor what it meant. Do not rush past the loss. But when you are ready, when the grief has done what grief needs to do, I want you to ask a different question than the one that kept Serena up at night. Not why did God take this from me? But, what is God making space for? Because He does not close chapters to punish you. He closes them because the story He is writing for your life requires a new one to begin. The person you were becoming inside that relationship was not the full version of you. And God, who loves you too completely to let you live at half capacity, intervened. Not to hurt you. To protect the version of you that the right person will one day be privileged to know. The ending is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of the chapter where you finally become who you were always meant to be. And the person meant for that version of you, they are worth the wait. Trust the ending. Trust the space. Trust the one who sees your whole story from beginning to end and loves you enough to protect it, even when the protecting feels like loss. If Serena's story found you at exactly the right moment today, share this with someone who is grieving an ending they don't yet understand. Subscribe to Ancient Wisdom and stay close, real conversations every single week. Take care of yourself. And trust that what God removed, He removed for a reason.